Alright guys, welcome to Flav Oriana's MMA show. I'm your host, Flav Oriana, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. Alright guys, so this is the reaction of UFC 256 that just happened this past Saturday, and it was headlined by the great Deiveson Figueiredo versus the challenger, Brandon, the assassin baby, Moreno. Alright, so this actually exceeded expectations. It was actually one of the better cards in quite some time. I know UFC 255, it was kind of a dud, but this one, even though you had a repeat of the same champion headlining the card, back-to-back pay-per-views, better outcome, better performance. And you know what? I gotta say, this definitely boosts up the stock of Deiveson Figueiredo, and it definitely boosted up the stock of Brandon Moreno. Now people are going to be able to figure out, who's who. They're going to YouTube this video. They're going to YouTube the fight that just happened on Saturday, and they're going to be like, even though, these guys are small and they only weigh 125, this is one of the better fights I'm probably going to end up watching. And it's true. So the fight happened between Deiveson Figueiredo. He was trying to go for his second title defense, going against the challenger, the former Ultimate Fighter season 24 member in Brandon Moreno. Now, Brandon Moreno has that Mexican warrior, mentality. Now, what does that mean? I mean, that means never quit, never back down to nobody, and always, fight forward. Brandon Moreno had said in an interview that he wants to be known as his idol, which is Julio Cesar Chavez. Not the son, no, the father. And the way that he ended up fighting was kind of just like a reflection of Julio Cesar Chavez. So back and forth action, this performance by both fighters in the main event was very high paced. Was wondering, are they going to be able to keep it up all 5 rounds? Did they keep it up all 5 rounds, that performance? No, it came close to it. But first round, I gave the round to Figueiredo. Figueiredo was throwing hard body shots, showing off his power. But that's the problem with Figueiredo, is that he's known to knocking out and finishing his opponents within the first round. He can use all his power and all his explosion, in that one round, because he normally, knocks him out or ends the fight within a round. Round 2, I gave it towards Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno was pushing forward, throwing combinations. They were both throwing combinations to one another. One person threw a punch, the other person, threw another punch, and they were both eating shots. I mean, they looked ridiculous after that fight was over. Round 3, it was a repeat of round 2, but I mean, for any man that has experienced what happened to Brandon Moreno in the middle of that third round, I mean, only us men can understand that pain, because Figueiredo, I mean, he was being told by the ref that he needs to stop with I think he ended up poking Moreno in the eye in the second round, and he ended up kicking. He was trying to go for a body kick, but he ended up kicking Brandon Moreno in an area where the sun does not shine at all. And Brandon Moreno was down to the floor, coughing, and you could tell that hurt so much, just because this guy looked like he wanted to throw up. And I told Javier when we were watching the fight together, if I'm Moreno, I'm using all that complete 5-minute time that I'm given, just so I could recuperate. And once Brandon Moreno ended up recuperating, he came out guns blazing. He started firing, punch after punch, Figueiredo punch after punch. But also, I forgot to say, Jason Herzog ended up giving a point deduction towards Deiveson Figueiredo. So this was 3 separate times he has told Figueiredo, you can't do the eye poke. Then it was another eye poke, and then it was a kick towards the groin area. So deducted a point. Now in that third round, I gave it towards Moreno. It could have went either way, but remember, it was a point deduction, so If Figueiredo, in your eyes, has won that round, you have to deduct 1 point, so it's a 9-9 round. That's a big problem with a point deduction, because it could change the whole outcome. If you had Moreno winning, it goes from a 10-9 round to a 10-8 round. Or if Moreno was dominating and, like, throwing numerous amount of takedowns and then knocking him down, and it could have went from a 10-8 round to a 10-7 round. So you got to understand that, like, losing 1 point in a fight, especially in a championship fight, I mean, it's huge right there. It could really decide the whole, outcome of the fight. That's why many judges don't want, not judges, that's why many referees do not want to deduct a point unless it's super necessary. In round 4, I think, in my opinion, that had to be one of the best rounds of the year. I mean, it was back and forth. Figueiredo and Moreno were throwing shots at one another, throwing jabs, throwing hooks, throwing overhands, and they're both eating it. I mean, the normal man would have been down and out cold, but you saw the beating that both guys took. I mean, it resembled a little bit more on Moreno, because he's more of fairer skin. I still can't get over the fact that what DC said in the commentary. He had said that Brandon Moreno looks like McLovin. Now, if any of you guys have seen Superbad, I mean, he kind of does look like McLovin, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, yeah, it's the haircut, it's the fair skin, but he kind of looks like McLovin in a way. Kind of does. But anyways, that 4th round, I gave it towards Moreno. So right there, I have it 3 rounds to 1. My eyes, I felt like going into that 5th round, Figueiredo needs to go for the finish. He needs to go for the finish. Within the first minute of the 5th round, Figueiredo ends up throwing, I want to say, about like 3 vicious body kicks, and Moreno ends up blocking it. It looked like Moreno's forearm was broken. You saw like a little bit of a lump, and Moreno couldn't throw that jab on from his left arm. Every time that he was throwing, he had to clinch it because of the amount of pain that he ended up absorbing from trying to block those kicks. I mean, look, guys, I've been saying it for quite some time that Figueiredo, this guy is tough. This guy's brutal, and he brings the violence. I mean, I know Masvidal says, I'm here to display the violence, but Figueiredo is always displaying that violence, and he's a little bit more active than, Masvidal. But I mean, wow, that fight was crazy. And then ending that 5th round, I gave it towards Figueiredo just because of the lack of activity that Brandon Moreno was displaying. I know he was hurt, and the judges ended up scoring it. One judge gave the fight to Figueiredo. The other 2 judges scored it as a draw. So you see how that 1 point ended up, changing the whole outcome, the decision of the fight. It ended up going into a majority draw. Nobody wins, nobody loses, so Figueiredo ends up retaining his title. Now, this is huge because Dana White had said in the post-fight press conference that these guys are definitely going to do a rematch. So I feel like the biggest loser for UFC 256 had to be Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt was going to get the next title shot, but to see how great, Moreno and Figueiredo ended up fighting one another, I mean, it just sucks for Garbrandt because now he has to wait. Now there is, some rumors saying that Garbrandt might have to take a fight between Manel Kape. Manel Kape is a guy who I believe he fought in Ryzen in a different promotion. He was a champion. I believe he was a flyweight champion, so he was due to be the backup in case anything was to happen between Figueiredo or Moreno. I mean, luckily nothing ended up happening, and you saw what happened in that main event. So there is rumors that Cody Garbrandt might have to fight Manel Kape. That'll be Manel Kape's UFC debut, and that would be Cody Garbrandt's debut at the flyweight division. So I think that would actually be the best turnaround, and then do the rematch between Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. I mean, you give those 2 guys a proper 8 to 12 week training camp. I mean, who knows how fast that pace of a fight is going to be. I mean, look, the flyweights are here to stay. The flyweights are here to stay. A couple years ago, there was just a thought that the flyweight division might be canceled. But I got to say, this performance really brought out so many eyes to the flyweight division, and I'm happy to see it. Happy to see that the flyweight division is moving. It is moving. All right, guys, so moving on to the co-main event. Co-main event was Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira. Now, I told you guys in the last video, this was a crossroads fight for Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson needs to win this fight. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. Ferguson ended up losing against Charles Oliveira, but not in the fashion that how he ended up losing towards Justin Gaethje. At least in that Justin Gaethje fight, Tony Ferguson was a lot more competitive, and he was displaying damage towards Gaethje. It wasn't the case with Oliveira. Oliveira, he is very underrated. I've said it in previous videos that he's very underrated. This guy is one of the elite of the elites when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a black belt, and there are levels to this. There are so many different levels to this when it comes to being a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Charles Oliveira just displayed on how great and talented he is when it comes to his ground game. I mean, in that first round, I thought that Tony Ferguson's arm was going to be broken. I mean, if you see how Oliveira ended up hooking his arm underneath his armpit to create extreme amount of pressure and extension on his arm, I thought it was going to be broken. It looked like it was hyperextended. Tony Ferguson was not going to tap out by no means necessary whatsoever. And I'm kind of glad that the ending of the first round ended within that time period, because another 10 more seconds, I mean, I guarantee you Tony was not gonna tap out at all. But you were gonna see a really destroyed and battered arm of Tony Ferguson, and that really compromised him throughout the remaining part of the fight. I mean, Oliveira was able to do whatever he wanted, and he ended up he ended up bullying him around. He big brothered Tony Ferguson. Now, who does that? Who does that? Now, there is talks about what's going to happen with Ferguson. In my opinion, I think Ferguson needs to take some time. I think he needs to take at least 8 months off. You know, let his mind heal. Remember, he ended up doing 2 weight cuts. He did a weight cut. What's it called? He did a weight cut for the original date that he was supposed to fight Khabib. They were supposed to fight, I think, in the Barclays Center, if I'm not mistaken. And then he did a weight cut 3 weeks later to ended up fighting Justin Gaethje. Ends up losing that fight brutally, right? And then gets pretty much beaten up, you know, big brothered by Charles Oliveira. Like, that's 2 fights in a row that he has lost. I don't think that Father Time has officially caught up to Tony Ferguson, but I really do believe that he's gonna need some time. Let him get his mind straightened out. Take some time, that, you know, as much time as needed. I'm saying 8 months just because of the fact that by then it'll be August 2021, and then he can hop into, you know, a fight night card or anything like that, and then give him, you know, a top 15 opponent. Who in the top 15? Now, that's probably a good question, but I don't know. I mean, lightweight is the scariest division in all of the I would say it's a scary division of all MMA. Definitely in the UFC. I don't know so much about the other promotions, but yeah, I would give Tony Ferguson some time off. He's gonna need it. You know, maybe you can have him face Drew Dober, or, I mean, you're not gonna want to have him fight Kevin Lee or Diego Ferreira. I mean, maybe Al Haiquinta, but I don't know. Tony Ferguson needs to have some time off. As for Charles Oliveira, now this puts him in the title mix. He ended up beating up a big name that fans know all over. He ends up beating Tony Ferguson. Now he's gonna move into that elite company of what, top 4. He's gonna move into that elite company, and he ended up calling out saying that he wants the winner of Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. I actually agree with him on that. I think whoever wins that fight on January 23rd has first dibs on fighting Charles Oliveira. Now you got somebody new going into that top 4, top 5, top 6, in the lightweight division. As for who's going to be able to get a chance to fight Khabib if he does come out of retirement or at any point, or gets to fight for the interim or possibly the vacant lightweight title. So Charles Oliveira made a huge name for himself by ended up winning this past Saturday. Now everybody knows who he is. I mean, look, I knew who he was. I know that a lot of people were ducking and dodging him, and there was a reason. Look what he did to Tony Ferguson. Nobody does that to Tony Ferguson. We also had a fight, women's strawweight division. I was actually very hyped about this one. Mackenzie Dern. Anytime Mackenzie Dern is on, I'm going to tune in. I mean, not because of her good looks or anything like that, but this lady knows how to fight. This lady is a master in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And she was facing Verna Jandiroba. Jandiroba is also a master when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, when you put two people that are really good on when it comes to their ground game, what ends up happening? It goes straight into striking. Look what happens to Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. Both were elite wrestlers. They didn't wrestle at all. Ended up striking, and it turned out to be one of the better fights of that year. Mackenzie Dern and Verna Jandiroba had the possibility of being a fight night, but with the way that Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno ended up fighting, they stole that fight night from Mackenzie Dern and Verna Jandiroba. And these two ladies, they were swinging it. Throwing tons of shots. I mean, Mackenzie Dern was throwing so much pressure at Verna, and Verna in the first 2 rounds looked a little bit uncomfortable. Verna in the 3rd round ended up throwing a knee. I think she possibly even threw an elbow and ended up breaking the bridge of Mackenzie Dern's nose. But with all that being said, I mean, Mackenzie Dern ended up capitalizing on the moment and ended up winning by unanimous decision. Mackenzie Dern improved to 10-1. Verna Jandiroba and ended up going to 16-2. And then, look, we had the guy who a lot of people were talking about this past Saturday for many reasons. Mr. Big Mouth himself, Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland had the ability of possibly going 5-0 against Jacare Souza. Excuse me. And boy, did he deliver. He ended up delivering to 5-0, and he made his case known on why he should possibly be Fighter of the Year. And look, whenever Jacare brings you down, it should be alarming. But Kevin Holland actually looked pretty comfortable. He was so comfortable enough that he was trash talking. He told Jacare, wipe your nose, wipe that booger off. And right after he said that, he ended up clubbing him while Kevin Holland was on his back, clubbed him, caught him on the chin, and then even hit him harder and harder and harder, and knocking Jacare Souza out from his back as he was trying to get up. Now, who does that? If you look on the UFC page, yeah, I mean, it should be on the UFC page on Twitter. But if you look on our Twitter page at Four Corner Sports New York at Twitter, you will see that video of Kevin Holland knocking out Jacare out. I mean, it's completely sick. Usually, I will see a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to be heavily surprised. I was very surprised on this one. Now, what happens with Jacare? I mean, look, Dana said something about him cutting fighters. Is Jacare's job at risk right now? I mean, it is possible. It is possible that Jacare's job is at risk, but I doubt it. I think Jacare sticks around. He may be one of the few lucky ones to stick around. As for Kevin Holland, he becomes the 3rd fighter to improve to 5-0 in 1 calendar year. Oh, no, in 1 year. It's crazy. I know that Neil Magny was one of them. I can't remember the other one. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that Kevin Holland is 5-0, and he called out Khamzat Chimaev. Yes, Khamzat Chimaev. He says he's ready to fight by next week. He wants to go 6-0. Ooh, Dana, please make it happen. Please make it happen. I want to see Kevin Holland versus Khamzat. That should be incredible. I don't know if Khamzat is going to be able to derail the hype train, But you got two hype trains, facing one another in Hamza and Kevin Holland. Ooh, man, that's going to be great. That would be great if Dana White makes it happen, but I highly doubt it. And then lastly, for the first fight of the main card, you had Creo Gain versus Junior Dos Santos. Creo Gain was trying to improve to 7-0, and Junior Dos Santos, the veteran that he is, the former heavyweight champion, was facing a top and upcoming prospect. And Creo Gain ended up knocking out, well, it was a TKO stoppage by Creo Gain. Creo Gain ended up winning. Junior Dos Santos complained that he got hit in the back of the head, but if you look at the replay, Creo Gain ended up clipping Junior Dos Santos. Junior Dos Santos was retreating, and as he was trying to run away, Creo Gain ends up catching him with an elbow behind the ear, which is legal, guys, which is legal. And Junior Dos Santos was protesting the fight, but at the end, if you look at the replay, it was clear and obvious. Creo Gain ended up winning, and it was a legal hit. As for what happens with Junior Dos Santos' career, I mean, look, Dana said that it might be time for Dos Santos to hang it up. He might get cut. Who knows? I don't think Junior Dos Santos fights another fight in the UFC because he has lost, 4 fights in a row, if I'm not mistaken? He ended up losing to Jairzinho, Curtis Blades this year. Creo Gain lost to Francis Ngannou. The last time he ended up winning is when he beat Derek Lewis March 9th of last year. He was about to go almost 2 full years without winning a fight. Oof. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds like Dana might pull the plug on Junior Dos Santos. I hope not. I really do hope not. I like Junior Dos Santos. I just feel like he can't be fighting guys in the top 15. He's getting beaten up badly, and it's not funny. It's really not funny at all. And look, guys, what do I give UFC 256 a grade overall? Will I give it an A+? We'll give it an A or a B. You know what, guys? I'm going to officially give UFC 256 an A-, and here's why. The main event was phenomenal. The first fight of the night between, and I didn't even cover this. I'm not going to cover the prelims. We're going on almost, 23 minutes? Yeah, I'm going to cut this short. That first fight between Peter Barrett and Chase Hooper, phenomenal. Chase Hooper ended up capitalizing on the moment. He was losing 2-0 against Peter Barrett, but he ended up going for the heel hook and was successful. So that fight was great. You also had the feature prelim between Cub Swanson and Daniel Pitbull Pineda. That was a great fight. I mean, the return of Cub Swanson after he ended up tearing his ACL. I mean, look, the card was phenomenal. And then also, how can we forget Rafael Fiziev? And then he ended up fighting, what's his name? Renato Moicano. That was a phenomenal fight. The way that he knocked out Renato Moicano, vicious. This guy's a problem at lightweight. That's what I'm saying. Lightweight is scary. And it's only getting better. We also had a featherweight bout between Gavin Tucker and Billy Quarantillo. Gavin Tucker looked great. He looked phenomenal. The Canadian, capitalized on his moment. And lastly, we had a fight between Tisha Torres versus Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes making her UFC debut. And Tisha Torres, look, this is what you're going to have to do. Tisha Torres got a fighter outside of the top 15. Originally was supposed to face Angela Hill. And Tisha Torres, just pieced her up well. But that's what I'm saying. The whole card itself, I had to give it an A-. Was there a lot of big-time names? Yeah, maybe Deiveson Figueiredo and Tony Ferguson are probably the guys that you're going to hear about most. And obviously Junior Dos Santos. But overall, an A-, well-deserved, very underrated card. But it exceeded expectations. And then next month, we're going to have Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, the rematch. Oof, guys, I cannot wait for that. I cannot wait. The trailer came out. Well, was it a trailer? Yeah, it was pretty much like the hype video for it. The UFC ended up releasing it on their YouTube page, and it looked phenomenal. Can't wait. Can't wait for them to get ready for war. Until then, guys, I am Flav Oriana, and I will see you guys next time. Peace, guys.